All right, Glenn Streeter, thank you for being on Radiant Creators. I'm going to read Glenn's bio real quick here, just so you know who we're talking to. And you can check out energymedfit.com. It's just energy, medfit.com while you're listening if you want to check them out. And introduction: with a degree in exercise physiology, emphasizing sports medicine, Glenn has been practicing sports physiology and energy medicine for over 30 years. His clients include world champion and national caliber athletes from a variety of disciplines, as well as celebrities. An avid off-road motorcycle and mountain bike racer, Glenn knows the value of energy medicine and pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, PEMF. In his holistic healing practice, Glenn employs a variety of PEMF devices and contributes his knowledge to the alternative medicine community via syndicated radio programs, prominent news outlets, and online subscription services, including Gaia Consciousness Media. That's where I first heard of Glenn, by the way. Making Life Brighter, Starseed Hotline, and Rents.com. In addition to founding Energy MedFit and co-founding Vital Life Services, Glenn also serves on the executive board of Pulsed Harmonix, a Colorado-based PEMF device company offering state-of-the-art technology at an affordable price. And I'll also throw in that Glenn has done presentations at the same um, seminars as Ken Rolla, another person who's been on Radiant Creators a few times, and Glenn and Ken Rolla know one another, so that's pretty cool. How there's always kind of a cymatic connection to people, you know. So welcome to the show, Glenn. I am glad you are here, and I've done a session with Glenn in the past. Like I say, I first saw him on Regina Meredith, I think it is, on Gaia, and booked a session with him, and that was quite enlightening. We kind of kept in touch ever since then, and well, now Glenn is on the show to talk about what he does, energy medicine, and well, talk about what he does, what he's doing, state of the world, getting a broken leg, and the new kind of cycle that's happening at the end of this month. So where do we start?
Great to be with you, Craig.
Yeah.
We've had some great talks off the air. Looking forward to this.
Yeah.
So maybe we could start real quick with the history of energy medicine, at least the modern history.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Certainly, energy medicine's been around for a long, long time with things like Reiki, acupuncture, will and intention, and what have you. But it became device oriented in around 1850, which is a really important date for all of us to understand what happened. It was the discovery of electricity. It was the creation of the telegraph, the camera, and also communism was created during that time period. So, and also a certain group was allowed back into Europe that wasn't allowed to be there for a long time. So all these big changes happened, and energy medicine began to flourish from that time period with devices. Like, if folks like to do research on these things, one is called the Lord Baltimore, which one of my friends actually has. It's a fairly simple device that delivers electrical pulses and heals the body. There were a number of Tesla type devices back in that time period too, more like the later 1800s. And it was really an exciting time. People like Lakovsky, you can look that up as well, Lakhovsky. There was a lot of work going on with terrain theory with folks like Naessens and Béchamp, these great European researchers. And then around 1920, the Rockefellers put the kibosh on this entire movement to make room for big pharma. And it's been downhill ever since, up until recently, where there's been a resurgence in these technologies, and also a refinement of them, the ability to miniaturize them. For example, one of the PEMF devices that we use is based on the Papimi, which Dr. Pappas from Greece created, I want to say in the 1970s. But it was $100,000. It was needed to be drug around by a trailer, and they got great results. But Now that it's been miniaturized and the prices have come down, folks have access to these things now, and we've seen miracles with them that we can certainly talk about as we go.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And of course, the Rife, I think, the Rife devices, I forget who created those, the Rife
That was
frequency,
Royal Rife
Royal
himself,
Rife.
right?
Yeah. And I think Rife frequencies have kind of gotten a bit of a resurgence recently where, well, the last decade or so, because the Spooky 2 devices.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are getting more and more common. That's basically, well, energy medicine also. And okay, so, and then we had someone on the show, Duncan Laurie, and he talked about, Rife without energy. Oh, I forget. I'll have to look it up. But so let's start with um, on basically on your site, energy medfit.com, and we can actually, I can share the screen, or if you want to share your screen, that's fine. Either way, we should have the ability to, if we wanted to, do we want to like actually go over some of the devices that you've actually, products and services that you're actually providing right now?
Sure. If you want to pull it up, I can walk people through it.
Yeah, let me actually do a share here and present window. Let's do, yeah, this window. Boom. All right. And I think that you probably see it, right? It
So if you
should be kind of,
go to technologies.
yeah, there we go. You hop back over there. All right. So this is the site, energymedfit.com. And of course, there's Glenn, you know, and here we go, technologies. And as we cruise down here, THC terahertz.
So this is a really cool wand from China that delivers a terahertz quartz crystal laser onto the body, along with bone heating. And what the Chinese have found is when you heat the bone, you stimulate the immune system fairly dramatically. Um, but of course, there's also the laser component, which increases ATP and also nitric oxide in the body. We've found very quick pain relief, ankle sprains, back pain going away, headaches very, very quickly, and exciting technologies that used to cost thousands of dollars, and now they're under $1,000
Mm.
for these types of things. And
And
part of what you and I spoke about is we do, obviously your folks pay attention to the world situation more than most. We're literally closer to World War III than we ever have been. Some new intel has come out today, and it's not looking good. So we have to plan for the worst. And I think it's important that people understand that we need to create a triage situation in the home or the neighborhood, maybe sharing these technologies with neighbors, what have you. But the next technology allows us to actually scan the body for 3,500 items using either a phone or a tablet, and then introduce frequencies that can balance what the machine finds. It's quite uncanny how accurate it is, and simple to use. And those are inexpensive as well. And you can't manage what you don't measure. So we're really big on testing. But we like to test things that are a much deeper dive than what Western medicine is testing.
yeah.
It's one thing to take a photograph of something like an MRI or a CAT scan, but that doesn't tell you what the etiology or the energy behind that is, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've had MRIs and I've had scans, and I'm sure definitely a place for it. But anyone who's actually looked at their own scans, or has seen them, you can't see that much. If you ever seen like a kidney scan, it's like only really quite the kidney specialist who's looked at a lot of them can hardly even make anything out of it. Who might see something? It just looks like kind of a bean. You know what? It's like, what are you going to do with that? And I actually went to a kidney specialist once, and I saw my scans, and he was a pro. And he was, kind of honest. He's like, I can only see so much. I can tell there's something going on over here, but that's it. I can't really tell you what. So yeah,
Right.
those scans, they're great. If I have a broken leg, I want an X-ray so we can see exactly what's going on. But yeah, that's the thing. Uh, like you say, definitely something we should delve into is we have to be our own doctors, be our own kind of EMT centers. I think everyone should be, uh, at least have the EMT training minus how to run an ambulance, and wouldn't hurt if you know how to grow microgreens and can clean fuel injectors. I mean, really. So we're moving into this time where how do you define self-reliance? It's truly we're going back a ways with thankfully we're not quite uh, in a wagon train anymore. At least we've got uh, we're a little bit better off than we were, I think.
Well, I believe the technology is either going to save us or kill us. I think that's becoming quite clear, and devoted my life to finding the technologies that can save us. So this AO scan is like a doctor in a box. And I'll give you a story of how well this can work.
Yes.
I had a world-class athlete with a persistent knee problem that showed up with MRIs and X-rays as completely normal, and we probably dealt with him for 6 to 9 months with no changes, and that's quite rare for us. We have about an 80% success rate. You name the problem. And what we found through the AO scan was that he had stomach issues, and there's a stomach meridian called stomach 36 just outside of the knee and below the knee. So we forgot about the knee and fixed his stomach, and his knee pain went away.
Mm.
So these are the types of deep dives that we can do on the body with these technologies that the doctors will never get to, just because of the sunglasses, the particular sunglasses that they wear intellectually.
No, I get it. Well, one thing with this device that we were just looking at before the AO scan, um, the the terahertz. So let's say a person had you know like a sore knee, and they had some, like, maybe cartilage damage or something like that. This is something that would kind of relieve that pain, and can it lend towards, I know we can't make medical claims because but lend towards healing.
Well, sure. The important thing to remember is if we look at the energy spectrum as a pyramid, the bottom of that pyramid or the foundation is PEMF. We're all deficient in these magnetic fields that we used to get thousands of times more power coming from the earth and walking barefoot, spending time in water and what have you. So we're missing out on those magnetic fields. But the top of the pyramid is light. So folks are certainly deficient in sunlight, which is obviously the best. But if we can concentrate that sunlight into a portable wand that actually works when the sun's not out, we're taking care of the top of the pyramid. So regrowing cartilage is the task of the PEMF device, but
Mm.
certainly pain relief and tendon, muscle, ligament regeneration can happen with the laser therapies.
I like it. And the AO scan mobile, and you don't have to be in person for that, right?
No, that can be done remotely as well, but there
Yeah.
is an attachment that kind of looks like headphones that connect to the device that work through the ear bones. So literally putting a frequency in and looking for the response from the body, and the software is able to detect that.
Yeah, that's one of the big things is that, with the AO scan, you can diagnose someone remotely because, well, there's only so many places that we can be at once until we achieve serious sainthood. Then bilocation is no problem, but it can be hard to take an object with you, I have found. So it's good that it's good that you can do it remotely. And there's NulVision.
Okay, so you've experienced the NulVision, uh, whereas AO scan is 3,500 items, NulVision is 130,000 items.
Mm.
This is about the deepest dive that we can do on the human body from an energetic standpoint. Basically, think about applied kinesiology for 130,000 items that happens instantly. Some crazy stories with NulVision where we've actually been able to save people's situations dramatically. Quick one is an 8-year-old child in Pennsylvania, salt of the earth, good kid, good student, very well mannered. The energy company came and did some work to the home, and 2 weeks later, he was attacking his mother with a kitchen knife.
Mm.
And NulVision was able to determine that he had a smart meter that was placed outside of his bed that was roasting his head about a foot away while he slept. And this was creating huge emotional and anger problems, outbursts, lack of blood flow to the brain, headaches. And so we were able to have that removed. And with our carbon 60 product and PEMF therapy, he was normalized within a few weeks. So
Wow.
those are some of the exciting things we can do when we're able to dig down to the cause of these things, rather than just throwing pharmaceuticals at the problem, which is basically like putting paint on a rusty car.
Yeah. 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 Having done the NulVision, I can say it does find some remarkable things. Like I like shooting, and it found some toxicity I had from like cordite. So
That's right. It picked up the gunpowder in your body. That's so interesting.
yeah. And I was like, yeah. I was like,
The smell of freedom.
no problem on that one.
Sound of freedom.
I was like, how do I cleanse that? And Glenn's like, Budweiser. I'm like, all right. just kidding. Yeah, that's 6 cans of Budweiser for every 50 rounds.
And then you create your own targets with all those empty cans.
Yeah, exactly. So you never really get clean, but it's all right. It's the journey, not the destination. So
that's right.
So holy hydrogen.
Yeah, so this is exciting. What we've learned is that the hydrogen molecule is the most effective antioxidant and about 200 times more powerful than a vitamin C tablet from ascorbic acid. And it's readily available. It doesn't need to go through the Krebs cycle like supplements do. It can actually get right into the bloodstream as an antioxidant. And we found that it works quite well with carbon. It can actually double the potency of each other. They work in synergy, carbon 60. Holy hydrogen keeps the water viable for about 8 hours. And we certainly can't make claims of cures, but we have seen things like cancer and diabetes and arthritis go away very quickly with the hydrogen water. Because all of these things are inflammatory. And let's remember, everything's an inflammation problem. All of these Western doctors want to be famous and put their name on a disease. But ultimately, whether we're talking about MS, lupus, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, arthritis, they're all inflammation. And they're all a part of an acidic body condition. So with the hydrogen, we can alkalize the body very quickly. And think about it. We're supposed to be drinking a gallon of water a day if we're 200 pounds. Why not have that water be as clean and as potent as possible?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
Can also be used topically for wounds, cuts, infections, skin conditions. Very powerful antioxidant.
I like it. Pulsed Harmonix.
Right. So Pulsed Harmonix is the world's first clinical level output device for home prices. So about 10 years ago, you'd have to pay $20,000+ to get this type of Gauss, which is a rating of magnetism in the body, magnetism of horsepower. I'm sorry, not in the body, but on the earth. And Pulsed Harmonix is about 1700 Gauss, which is getting into that clinical output level. If people do have the resources, I would highly recommend this device. This is one of the best cost-effective machines for back pain, ankle sprains. We've actually dealt with stage 4 liver cancer with this device quite successfully in about 3 months. Gangrene, we were able to save a leg that was about to be amputated in 3 months. We've dealt with leukemia successfully with this machine. So very exciting what's going on right now in terms of miniaturization and the quality of these devices being high, but the prices coming down. It's economies of scale. Remember, the first calculator was about $1,000, and all it would do was 4 basic functions, right?
Oh yeah.
And then they were free with every bank account, and now they're on the phone.
Now it's on your phone.
Right.
It's we don't even think about it anymore. Yeah. So this is actually a Pulse Harmonix True Pulse A2000. This is actually creating the PEMF field or frequencies. And so, is this the so I see the box. So is there like basically a pad that I see next to it? So you
Uh-huh.
actually would lay on that pad, or you put that pad on you.
There's a 2 foot by 3 foot mat, and then there's also 2 other attachments that are more specific for joints and what have you.
Awesome. That's amazing.
And we do rent that device for folks who don't have the resources. We can make large changes in a week depending on the problem.
And that's where you get into the deep healing. That's amazing. That's the thing where, as we've talked about, offline before, is, and like you mentioned, WW3 has never been closer and such. Yeah, we do need to. Most people, and we'll keep going down the list here, but it's like we've spoken about. Many people, they're not, for various reasons, they're not going to a hospital, unless they have a broken leg. And then there can be issues getting in the hospital. We'll definitely tell your story. And so more and more, and I'm seeing this like in the community I live in. And I think this is something like people need to start thinking about and cultivating. And I'm sure people who have an interest are already doing it. But yeah, whether we have one of these for the kind of prepper group, the community, or we have a couple or whatever, all of these devices that we're talking about are really going to be part of, like if you're kind of let's say a prepper minded person, this is like, more important than canned tuna and maybe even extra ammo,
Yeah, these things get left out. A lot of folks understand that when you're in battle, it's about making holes and plugging holes.
Yeah.
Which we can talk about a little bit. But other than that, there's all kinds of things that crop up. The lists are infinite. And if you have to run off to a doctor who's not either A, not there, or B, not going to treat you because you're a patriot, or C, not treating you because you're not vaxxed, these are big issues and they're very real. I think you and I talked off the air. There was an article recently about a hospital that would not treat people who were unvaxxed and would not treat people who were patriots.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
this is where we're coming to, and we need to have a triage unit in the home as much as possible.
Yeah, and people have the fear of, let's say, when they get in the hospital, especially if they're unconscious, they don't want certain things happening to them.
Right.
Yeah, that happen. So
the deaths from the ventilator and the remdesivir during COVID are legendary. It's about an 80% death rate.
Yeah.
So I would encourage folks to really trust the person who has power of attorney over their life as well. Those are things we should start thinking about.
Yeah. And, I certainly have heard stories of people who, fell out from the COVID, and they ended up in the hospital, and kind of like a group of kind of a posse had to go and break them out.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, they didn't, they didn't trust the situation. So I understand what they did, Yeah, and one thing also is when you mention that, especially if you are, let's say, just for the sake of it, you're homesteading, you know what I mean, and you're doing a lot of garden work, strenuous work, or even if you're not, it doesn't matter. People get aches and pains; they don't feel quite right. And the thing is, if you go to the traditional, hospital, let's say, who knows what you're in for. And most people they don't want to go there in the first place. Well, many people listening, they don't want to go there in the first place. So with devices like the PEMF, maybe you have a pain or you don't feel good, whatever. You don't have to know all the details. You can just grab the pad, lay on it, wrap it around it, put it on the joint that hurts. You have a headache, you can put your head on it. You don't have to know the details so much in general, if there's something wrong, you can grab the PEMF and just hang out and read a book, where if you go to be diagnosed, well, anyone who's ever done that, you you can get run around, you can get run in a lot of circles. I mean, and you don't know. I don't know. That's something I think anyone who's ever been in that situation where something's wrong and you don't exactly know what it is, and you go to the hospital, go to the doctors, most of them mean well, but their ability to see is very limited. And then like their tool chest is very, very limited, so you're kind of, it might not be able to do anything for you, where PEMF, you don't have to know all the details, just use it. Most likely it will take care of the problem without you having to know exactly even what it was, if that makes sense.
Yes, and one of the characteristics of what my new term for them is the obsoletes, right? OBS dash elites. They're obsolete with their ways of thinking. They're absolutely infatuated with naming everything and coming up with a specific antidote to said problem. This has led to the lunacy that I alluded to a minute ago, where everyone wants to name a disease after themselves when everything is a lack of electrons. It's that simple. Because electrons are antioxidants, right? The reason
Oh
that
yeah.
the reason that metal rusts in the rain is because it's oxidizing. And there is a place for oxidants in the body, particularly with infectious agents. We can get into that later. But if we're bombarding the body with electrons all day long, with things like the holy hydrogen and the PEMF machine, guess what? A majority of the problems just disappear,
Yeah.
right? So we don't need to worry about naming everything and the specificity of it. Just put the device on and blast away with electrons. It's a really elegant, simple solution to a lot of life's problems.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the living healthy, it's not, we tend to think of it as prevention, but more it's just living a life that is energetic and feels good. Like you
Mhm.
mentioned, sunlight being essential. And we just had Jackie Jolie on the show, and that was quite good. And I like being out in the sun and grounding, but I never quite understood it so deeply. Now, I'm out there, you got to get barefoot, you got to wear your moccasins or something as much as you can, and make that connection to earth. It's so essential. And then, as she was saying, you got to get out there in in like the sun, sun up, sun, midday sun, sun setting. And then those codes come from the sun, and the body knows what time it is and what to do. I didn't realize how being out of touch with the sun, um, what a negative effect that has.
It's profound. In fact, some of my colleagues, like Dr. Jack Cruz, they think that sunlight is more important than diet, and I've been leaning that way for a long time.
Yeah, and I would say for anybody who wonders about that, for real, get out there and see the dawn sun, see the midday sun, see the evening sun. Get out there, look at the moon at night, get that light in your eyes. It doesn't have to be direct. It's great if it is. Get a little bit of brown skin, and get some tan if you can. Um, because I only upped my sun a few weeks ago, and it's been a massive difference. And of course, the quality of light that we're looking at, that's a whole different story. But also the Schumann you mentioned, and that's a thing where, the planet is changing right now. We're going through, you know, the poles are wandering. Maybe there'll be a pole shift. Maybe, we're definitely in a grand solar minimum, most likely. One way or the other, our Schumann resonance is definitely, it's crazy spiky. It's off the charts sometimes. Sometimes it's normal. I've been watching it for a couple of years, and it went from like most of the time normal to now it's blasting off the charts. It's really kind of disturbing. We have lots of radiation coming in from space, a lot of cosmic rays coming in because our uh, our ionosphere is very weak right now. So we're in a time where, you know, with the pole wander, especially, people think the poles are at the top and bottom of the Earth, but the magnetic poles, they're wandering all over the place right now, and eventually they'll zap back, but that can be very disturbing to life on the planet, especially if the planet has to kind of like rock over one quarter for that to happen. So I think, are you noticing that people feel kind of odd these days, sporadic, depressed, happy? I mean, that's one of the things people need to really work on, I think, is really creating a very powerful biosphere themselves, because our natural kind of balance is sort of gone because the Schumann's crazy, Earth's magnetic fields are crazy. You really got to be your own point of energetic sanity right now.
Yeah, that's a great observation for sure. It feels like an assault from every angle,
Yeah,
particularly and the social fabric, um, legal, political, etc., world events. I think it's a really good time to hunker down energetically. And that doesn't mean we don't put our best foot forward, but to be sunbathing, spending time in nature, listening to beautiful music, getting a massage, acupuncture, whatever that is nurturing to the spirit, and just kind of try to raise that voltage, because everything is a voltage problem at the end of the day. And there's amazing technologies that are right around the corner. I have been in discussion with some of the inner circle of the MedBed group.
yeah,
Um, they are not available yet, but they do exist as a patent, which means that they do exist, because you can't patent something that hasn't been invented. It's probably a DoD project, and certainly the same people who are trying to eliminate the population with this jab are not going to allow this technology to be available. So in the meantime, I'd like to encourage folks that we have the closest thing to the MedBed available, which is what we're going over here now.
yeah.
Instead of one modality, it's multiple modalities, but we can get near those types of results with inundating the body with the electrons, like we spoke about.
Yeah, and I'm always, really into what is actually available and what actually exists right now, and so all of these products, you can get your hands on, I mean so yeah, the med bed, we'll see, if that thing turns up one day, but right now, yeah, as you said, that we have the closest thing to it, and it's actually tangible, and we can get our hands on it, and there's development happening in that space. So I guess you could say it's kind of like we have the militia's med bed right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Well put.
yeah. Um, and so bioharmonic technologies.
Okay, so this is my buddy Dr. Steve Schwartz's company. He's created two things that are really compelling. One is a handheld laser called the LZR30, which has over 300 modes. Very well made device. It's about half of a watt, which is quite powerful. And you could run over it with a pickup truck. It's that well made, it's not going to break. I like to carry one in my backpack when I'm guiding, or whether I'm out when I'm outdoors. We've gotten people out of the woods with this device, um, and it's taken care of flu, sore throats, ear infections, things like that very, very quickly.
Mm.
But his most compelling technology is a bed that you lay in that plays music to you, that the device determines that you need for trauma resolution, cellular cleansing, well-being, maybe a reset to happier times. The last time I was in this bed, I was crying like a baby. It was unbelievable, the release of trauma. And this was after I had broken my leg last year skiing. And it takes a lot to make me cry. This was quite compelling. And you can choose any music that you like, or you can let the device choose it for you. There's an
Mm.
LED face mask that you can put on, so you can actually get light therapy while you're getting the music therapy. So that's a wonderful experience. If folks have the resources, that's a great device for trauma resolution.
Wow.
Other things, state of being.
And I think there was a while we're on that subject, I'll just see if I can find it real quick since you have the screen shared. Um, being creators, let me just do Duncan. There was somebody we had on the show. He wrote a book on radionics, you know, like the history of it and all that. And if the picture's here, we'll look at it. If it's not, then I'll just blow by it. I'm not gonna hang us up on it. But do I have any pictures of that? Uh, no, I don't. I don't have it handy. I don't have the pictures of it, but they actually made something like that, and he's got pictures of it over on his site. I won't dig for it right now, um, but yeah, something very similar to what you're saying, and of course they were kind of technology hackers, and so it's funny how these things just naturally come to us. Like Bioharmonic Technologies has one, and then also yeah, I know a bunch of kind of you know radionics crew who happen to be good with sound equipment and technology, and they actually this thing is remarkable. I've always wanted to he lives in Maine, and right now the device is in disrepair, and I've always wanted to travel out there and work on it and get it going again, because it does what you're describing, although it's probably generations behind, I'm sure, but just the fact that somebody else has done the same thing, it goes to show that who really thinks of these things first? They just seem to exist in our consciousness, and they just start to sprout.
Yeah, it's kind of a hundredth monkey syndrome for sure.
Yeah. No, I like that. And we don't have to go through all this stuff. I
No,
mean,
we don't. We can skip NanoV. That's a great device, but I'd like to encourage folks to take a look at the Avazzia.
yeah.
So I do have one here. So this is a handheld PEMF device.
Let me actually take us off shared here. Go back. There we go. Yeah.
So this is what it looks like. It's a handheld device. I carry one in my backpack everywhere I go. Also, so there's a feedback component here, biofeedback. So as I rub my arm here, can you hear the crickets? You'll actually hear the device have a dialogue with you. So what
Yeah.
it's doing is it's telling me where the voltage is low, like my wrist is a little sore, for example. So I would leave that there. The device does its job, and then it beeps at me when it's done, and instantaneous pain relief. Number of attachments. We can actually turn this into a mini PEMF device with a mat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There are sticky pads for joints and things that are specific. And this was created by the Russian space program because they learned that you can't bring pharmaceuticals into space.
Mm. And you don't need a pen. You can just use a pencil.
That's right. NASA spent $250,000 trying to develop a pen that writes in space, and the Russians used a pencil.
That's so wonderful.
That's a great story.
Oh, yeah. It's so awesome.
So, yeah, we've seen miracles with that device as well. It can also open acupuncture points, so it's not limited to musculoskeletal problems. It can actually open up the acupuncture meridian and heal the organ. Right.
Wow. And see, that's the stuff that I love letting people know about, because all of this stuff does work. And when you look at what health insurance costs now, when you look at what going to any medical treatment without insurance costs, and then of course there's so many roads to go down on that one, but really, so PEMF for under $1,500, and it even has how big is the mat?
It's 18 inches by 12 inches.
Wow. So in general, you could
half of the larger PEMF mat, but you can treat a decent size area.
So you could move it around a couple times. You could wrap it around a knee or your head. Yeah. So that's the thing. These devices really do exist, and this is a wonderful thing, because I think we're going to have to be our own kind of. If a person has that prepper mindset, I know many people don't, but if you do, it's not so much about the end of the world. Even really, it's about just living a life that's better. That's more kind of almost like, it's sort of like being a Renaissance person in a sense. You're being kind of a neo-Aboriginal, and really you're just we're just getting back into technology that, like myself, even though sure I like the shaman, that's great. He can beat on me with a dead frog and maybe cure my sore knee. That's great. But I'd much rather just have this device. You know what I mean? Just you don't have to schedule them and everything like that, and also that's the thing. Once you've bought this for 1,500, then you and your immediate circle, you've got access to it if you care to share it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I know myself. I watch so many people who suffer, And I know when they go to the doctor, it just gets, well, I don't want to pick on doctors too much, but I know it just gets worse. Or, surgery for things. And I go, oh, careful with that knee surgery. I don't know. I mean, I'd at least want to put one crap ton of effort and $1,500 into this or the larger one, and just give it, if nothing else, I would tell skeptics, test it, you know, let, prove it to yourself, see if it works. If not, you can make fun of us.
And I should add that the PEMF with that device is 1,500. This device that I'm sharing is less than 600.
Let
Uh,
me actually take off the share real quick here so I can.
that's if folks don't want to do the PEMF routine with that, they can just do the little handheld here.
Gotcha.
In conjunction with the wand, the laser wand that we saw, that's a great place to begin this advanced medical prepping concept.
I like
And
it if.
I'd like to share this real quick.
Yes, please do.
Just how things can go bad as soon as we get involved with these clowns. I had a neighbor who had a cat bite, and it got infected, and he didn't do what I told him to do, and ended up on antibiotics. And next thing you know, now his gut's all torn up and having digestive issues, arthritis problem. I mean, antibiotics, the word means against life. We have replacements for these horrible antibiotics on our website that are so much safer, that actually regenerate the gut and regenerate the tissue without killing a squirrel with a rocket launcher. Right? We don't need a bazooka for the squirrel. It's really a flawed thought process. The whole idea of antibiotics. And silver had handled that task up until the Rockefellers came along quite nicely, right? Colloidal silver.
Yeah.
Now we have nano silvers. Things like hydrogen peroxide, iodine, just a lot of things that folks should stock up on in the safe antibiotic category, or I should say anti-pathogen category.
Yeah, that's the thing that the Romans used to, when they were traveling, when the Roman legionaries were traveling, they had barrels of water they take with them, because there's need some water along the way, and they would just throw a silver coin in each barrel,
That's right.
and it kept it from spoiling. So,
Our
and
great
it also,
had silver in the milk, right, on the
oh
pork.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Everything we're doing is really, it's we're just, gosh, we're just getting back to the old. We're getting back to the primitive with digital circuitry, Yeah, truly. So that's an amazing little device. Pulse energy technology, pulse centers.
Yeah, so the rest of those are very expensive clinical level PEMF machines. The one we have at the office is the pulse centers. If you want to bring
Gotcha.
the page back up, pulse,
There
pulse,
it is.
and then above it, pulsed energy tech is a real cottage device invented by one of my friends, who's a brilliant inventor. Um, Very powerful. These are in the 3,000 Gauss category. Very, very fast healing of any type of problem.
Wow. And so, are there practitioners that have these that you can go to if you're?
Well, as I said, we have the pulse centers at our office in Golden, Colorado, Golden
Oh,
Bio,
perfect.
and pulsed energy tech is used by a number of NFL and NBA teams
Really? Wow.
for super fast healing.
That's amazing. So Golden, Colorado. Well, I tell you, anybody, if you're not familiar with Golden, Colorado, it's a beautiful place to go and sit on a PMF mat, PEMF mat. It's not like you're going to like Detroit or something. It's very beautiful there.
And you can go tour the Coors factory, the Coors plant.
Yeah, I can tour the Coors factory. You know, yeah, and you can go to Boulder and you can get mugged by a homeless person. So anyway, if you want,
Or you can come ride motorcycles with me.
Yes, yeah, you can ride motorcycle.
Boulder. We have some of the world's best motorcycle riding here.
Well, I'd imagine. Yeah, the mountains are beautiful. And just so people know, I lived in Louisville for like 6 years. And that's right between Boulder and Denver, closer to Boulder. So it was kind of like the perfect little town. If you were a flatlander, you could get to, Boulder or Denver if you cared. I still like Denver. It's that's a beautiful laid back city. I haven't seen it for a while, but it was cool when I left. And so Nerve Express and Neural Vitality.
Okay, so Nerve Express is the gold standard for what's called heart rate variability.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Apple product. They can download our free app, which I paid $3,000 for 10 years ago. For $100, they can buy the Bluetooth and the chest strap and actually test themselves with their phone. And heart rate variability is admissible in court. It's a true measurement of the nervous system functionality. We can get a deep dive into the adrenal glands and the thyroid, and also the world's #1 predictor of heart attack.
That's amazing because I know that that's become definitely people have become aware of that in the last few years. I think that, well, you've been working with it for quite a while, but I think, for the masses, I definitely think that people like, what is it, Bulletproof Exact, Osprey, a lot of, it's kind of becoming, I think, somewhat mainstream. And I'm glad to see that because it's something that I know I've been looking at myself, is heart rate variability because this is one of the things I think that can really blow people's mind when they start seeing what this device can actually extract from them and then also be tracking it real time and graphing it. And they can see how their energy changes throughout the day and how even foods you eat affect it. Your state of emotion affects you, how much sleep you get or don't get. I mean, and so this is like a device you would wear around your chest or.
Dr. Jeff Marangel, who's my mentor in this category, he's done over 100,000 HRV tests, and he's the one who introduced it to HeartMath Institute.
Cool.
Taken the ball and run with it as far as a testing protocol. This is a much deeper dive than the Fitbit or any of that stuff that these kooky companies are trying to offer you. Your heart rate and things like that are really basic. This is a real deep dive into the nervous system. Also, as you alluded to, it's a great way to test whether supplements or interventions are moving us in the proper direction or not, right?
Yeah.
Also, we had a gentleman who showed up with a bad score, and we sent him right to the ER because he was about to have a heart attack. And
wow.
we were able to save him that terrible situation of having to have open heart surgery.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's the ultimate test for athletes to determine if the day is a green light, yellow light, or red light day in terms of output. So let's say it's a red light day. It's a day after a big event. You go get a massage, get some acupuncture, maybe go to the hot tub, maybe swim a little bit. But if it's a green light day, it's full on, right? WFO.
Yeah, get off your ass.
Yeah. So rather than relying on some chart that someone created for you, you're relying on the data. How does Craig feel on Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. when he does his HRV scan, right? If it says green light, then you go for it. Yellow light, you have a little bit of caution for the day, right? But it is unequivocal and admissible in court, as I mentioned. So really great way to test whether the interventions that we're doing are moving us in the proper direction.
That's amazing. So you wear the sensor and then it can
with a Bluetooth to the phone. Takes about 5 minutes to do the whole process, and then you take it off and do it again at another time.
That's amazing. I love it. And I'm definitely interested in that because I actually I was thinking about getting like the Apple Watch that monitors the heart rate variability and all. I know it's not perfect. It's not as good as this, but even that is, and I could just be naive, but what it sees, even if it's imperfect, is really friggin' impressive.
Right. It's just not measuring things that are that deep of a dive into the body, right?
Yeah.
Heart rate is certainly important for someone who's an athlete who may have had some heart problems, who's getting older, those types of things. But the problem with the Fitbit is it's a Bluetooth and it's putting out all this horrible EMF into the body.
Yes.
What Neural Vitality Networks, the next stop on the page, shows us. This is my buddy Ryan Ashley, who has tens of thousands of dollars in testing equipment and can go into your home or office and tell you whether the place is killing you in terms of Wi-Fi, 3, 4, and 5G, 60 hertz in the wall, right? The 110, 120 volt in the wall. All these things can be attenuated. And for folks who are looking for a simple answer, what we found is carbon 60 is incredibly attenuating to negative EMF. Really important to have that in us as a buffer to these negative EMF fields that are everywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely something I want to touch on is the C60 because it definitely has gained some prominence the last few years, and there's so many people who are making it, and I know it can vary in quality and such. And yeah, definitely let's touch on that before we're done because that would be that's some serious stuff. I mean, if carbon 60 would actually help to mitigate the EMF that we experience while basically being alive at this point in time, um, that would be remarkable. Yeah, I'd be taking it again. I have to admit I stopped. Um, STEM light centers and golden biohack.
Okay, so StemLight is our business partner in Texas who does embryonic stem cell injections. We found that combined with PEMF therapy and the carbon 60, we can really get some incredible results. Like we've regrown cartilage, regrown organs, taken away arthritic situations, spinal situations that were not operable. We've been able to fix those. So definitely worth looking into. But that's on the Bentley side of the scale.
Gotcha.
Here's Golden Biohack. This is our office in Golden where we have most of these technologies that we're speaking of.
Okay. So golden biohack. So everybody plan your trip, Yeah, I know next time I'm cruising across the country, which is not it's not that long from this moment, I'll definitely be stopping by Golden Biohack and I'll be like, just plug me into everything. I'm ready. Wow. So that kind of covers a lot of the offerings, and this was really a big deal to me to get this data out there because I know myself, knowing that this stuff exists and having some of this in my in the home here, um, and many other things that are eclectic and such. I've got my uh, kind of a homemade version of a Ken Rowland's what is it? Home shield, basically like a super organite powered pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
To yeah, you name it. Definitely this house is kind of a little radionics device, sort of just creating a positive energy that keeps a lot of the bad stuff out, both EMF and of course just like the absolute fear that is being pumped through the ether to all of us. You know what I mean? So um, there's so many things to touch on, but um, it's carbon 60, and you guys sell it on your site. You have something
Yeah.
that you endorse as far as that goes.
Click products, we can go down.
Yeah. Because I hear so much about it, and I think one of the things is so many people take it and they don't feel anything necessarily, and so they stop taking it. And but it doesn't mean it's not doing a lot of stuff, but people don't feel anything, or at least a lot of people that I've known, kind of myself included. I took it for a few months, I didn't feel anything, and then I went, I stopped taking it because C60 is a bit pricey.
It is, but the cost benefit ratio is actually quite high. The problem is you don't want some of the garbage products from China or the folks who are skimping on the quality of the carbon 60, which there's a lot of them out there. But before we get to that, if you want to go, Nanosoma was
Yeah.
created by a gentleman who spent 30 years with Pfizer and with Big Pharma and didn't want his legacy to be Big Pharma. So he created this product that is actually teaches the body how to make vitamin C again. We actually had that ability at one point, and it was genetically bred out of us, and it's part of the reason why we don't live that long
Oh
anymore.
wow. Okay.
Because think about dogs and cats; they don't eat any vitamin C. They're eating meat all the time, right? Nothing, no vitamin C there, but they have the Krebs cycle ability to create vitamin C. through proteins and fats and things that they're eating. So this product actually gives us the ability to do that, and one of the most powerful supplements that we've tested in the laboratory. ImmuRegen actually regrows the villi in the gut, so we can triple the surface area in the gut for folks who have leaky gut syndrome, folks who have had challenges with food allergies and things like that. Very, very powerful. And remember, all of this starts in the gut. So number one priority for us is to look at dental, and then number two is the gut health. So that's a very quick way to do that.
Makes sense. Yeah, because people don't always understand how much, ill dental health is killing them if all is not good there.
Nanoxide is our antibiotic replacement. This is a silver and oxygen solution that has a very, very high 80% plus success rate against every pathogen known to man, whether it's a fungus, virus, bacteria, parasite. And very, very safe. Highly recommended to spray this in the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth to protect us from the chemtrails and whatever else is trying to get in. Because if you think about it, if we don't have a cut below our neck, the only way in for these bad guys is through the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can create a barrier, if you will, of like a suit of armor, like a knight would wear, to protect us from these pathogens, that's a very positive thing. We've also dealt with long-term sinus infections, ear infections very quickly.
I get it.
Also has anti-cancer properties. Body Clean is my creation. This is an EDTA product to take heavy metals out of the body, but it also has saponins, which are basically like a safe soap that can be ingested to cleanse the liver and the spleen from pesticides, heavy metals, other chemical agents that have a different charge on them than the metals do. We had a person who didn't want to go to the ER with alcohol poisoning. They basically blew a 0.35, if you know what that means. That's like death, right? Anything over 0.2 can be deadly. We were able to bring this person back in about 3 hours with this product. Normal blood sugar levels and everything.
Wow.
Very powerful. Also makes a great cleaner for fruits and vegetables, which is an important thing to do. I talk to a lot of people who don't wash their fruits and vegetables, and even organic fruits and vegetables are suspect in terms of traveling in a truck and what kind of chemicals are on them from being on the road.
Oh yeah.
You're very important. Cannacarbon is my creation. This is the mix of spagyric CBD with carbon 60. We've gotten folks off of pain meds, psych meds, methadone, heroin with this product. Very powerful to bring the body back to homeostasis very quickly. Quick story with Cannacarbon. We have a gentleman who I want to say mid 40s, hardworking rancher farmer in Nebraska, who was on about 7 different psych meds from these horrible doctors, just punishing him with these things and creating symptomology and then giving another drug to deal with that symptomology, and basically spiraling the drain and suicidal. This gentleman was, and after about 6 months of Cannacarbon and C60 Energy, the product below, he was able to get off of all the pain meds. He's actually having a fairly positive emotional experience of life now, and no more drugs and no more suicidal tendencies. So that was a great success. I just spoke to his mother the other day, and she was very grateful. So C60 is our energy, our carbon product. We've teamed up with C60 Purple Power here due to some supply chain problems. Actually, the exact same product, just a different label. And then the Alchempist is our CBD company. with my business partner, Matt, who has come up with some brilliant things like spagyric, which we can talk about if you like.
Yeah, spagyrics for sure.
Ancient alchemical process. So the body has a hard time processing fat. So if we can take the fat of the hemp plant with the CBD molecule and turn it into a salt, we can make it instantly bioavailable. Very powerful in a number of different forms on the Alchemist, including topicals, which we've had great luck with as far as pain relief, healing infections, wounds.
And for anyone interested in kind of the history of alchemy and actually a breakdown of the process how spagyrics are made and such like that, they're kind of hiding it in plain sight. It's so funny. There's a book, The Idiot's Guide to Alchemy. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that thing is a serious grimoire. They're hiding it behind the cover of an idiot's guide. So if anybody's wondering.
Well, alchemy has a lot of interesting capabilities. One of my teachers has actually turned base metals into silver and gold in his basement. So those things are available now through proper alchemy. It's just not cost effective yet. So Atheon is what we've found is to be one of the world's best topicals. This is a magnesium, copper, and zinc delivery system. I cured MRSA in my own finger after a motorcycle accident where I crashed into a tree and shattered my pinky and got infected. And the Atheon took care of it in about 3 weeks, along with the nanoxide and taken internally. We've watched moles fall off that have been there for decades. We've watched
really okay, cool.
Really, really powerful topicals. Also for pain relief, for muscle and joint pain. BioAge is the world's most powerful ORAC score product. Each capsule is equal to 10 pounds of spinach or broccoli. So for the prepper out there who may end up having to eat processed foods or freeze-dried foods, this is a way to get living enzymes into the body without having to worry about procuring fruits and vegetables, which could be very difficult in a grid down scenario.
Yeah.
So highly recommended as a backup to garbage food that we may need to eat just to get the calories. This product will give us the life that we need.
I like it. Yeah. So if all there is to eat is your neighbors, make sure you wash it down with some BioAge.
Start with the liver. It's the most nutritious.
Yeah.
Unless they're an alcoholic, then you don't want to deal with the liver.
Yeah. Deep fry that heart. Well, maybe not deep fry, but yeah.
So Quinton is prescription only in Europe. This is a plasma product. It's bioidentical to blood plasma. Has all 92 minerals in a perfect ratio. We've actually brought folks back from the brink of heart attacks, high blood pressure, and what have you, which are mostly mineral problems at the end of the day.
Really? Okay.
This product has been used in war as a blood substitute when the French ran out of blood during World War I. Far superior to Ringer's lactate, if I'm sure you're familiar with that what the ERs give for in an IV to get the minerals and sodium back into the body. This has all 92 minerals rather than just a few.
That's amazing.
And then Oradix is our powerful EDTA suppository for folks with serious heavy metal toxicity. We've actually brought folks back from the brink with this too. Heavy metal poisoning can be very, very serious with depression, headaches, suicidal ideations, leaky gut syndrome, joint pain, bone pain, actually multiple bone fractures, folks who break bones very easily. It could be because they have cadmium or some heavy metal in the bone. Heart attacks are caused by inorganic calcium in the arteries. And this is a very safe way to deal with that. It's probably about 50% as effective as an IV, but most IV EDTA costs about $3,000 and can be a very, very difficult process. So this is a way to do that in the home. We've actually folks who are close to a heart attack with this product as well. And EDTA was created by the Germans in the 1930s. It's actually saved about 10 plus millions of people from having open heart surgery.
Wow. Mm. This is amazing stuff, and that's the thing. I think many of us, we get like we're aware and studying and learning more about this stuff, and it almost kind of pisses you off because you want to help people. Like we all know people that are sick, that are suffering from things, sometimes ourselves, and you want to do something. And so it's great that there's, tangible products to actually to do something, of course.
So we're always on the lookout for better, bigger and better things, and always testing them. I do have access to a couple of laboratories where we can test things, but also I'm a walking laboratory, attempting to be a high-level athlete at 55, and feeling pretty good, thanks to all these.
Yeah. And so there's so C60. Um, like you mentioned that you guys have one that you've at this point rebranded.
Yeah,
That,
it's
that you're reselling.
the Purple Power.
The
It's on.
purple.
You can link to it from our website.
Yeah, it's right there.
Code in there. Med10 is the code. MED10.
Med10. Yeah, and so like I probably a question you've answered so many times, but and you kind of went over it, but the C60, like what is that what does that offer people? I mean, like what are some of the benefits?
So imagine a soccer ball that has 60 panels on it.
Yeah.
Right. That's what the C60 molecule looks like. It's called the Bucky ball from Buckminster Fuller.
Mm-hmm.
Originally started out as an industrial lubricant, but some crazy French folks decided to study it and see if it was safe for biology. And over a 20-year study, they were not able to kill the mice and the rats used in the study, no matter what that they gave them. They tried to give them cancer through chemicals, through radiation, what have you, and the C60 kept them alive and actually tripled their lifespan. And the reason it works is because it's 172 times more powerful than vitamin C as an antioxidant.
Wow.
So as this basically looks like a satellite, this soccer ball going through the bloodstream, it's donating electrons and working on the superoxide dismutase pathway, right? SOD, if folks want to look that up. Part of the Krebs cycle, the antioxidant cycle. But more importantly, it actually is a chelator to about 3,000 bad guys that it pulls out of the body in terms of heavy metals, things like that. So one of the few products that does double duty as a regenerator and a detoxifier. So that's what makes the cost benefit ratio very high, even though it is expensive. One of the most powerful anti-aging and regeneration supplements on the planet available right now.
Yeah. And I think most people don't mind the expense. They just want to make sure it's doing something. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And as I
Yeah.
said, the reason some of those don't work is that they're lousy products that don't contain any C60 or subpar C60. And, we've been taught how to make it by the folks who brought it to the market. And C60 Purple Power is one of the first to market and has been expanding their product line pretty dramatically here recently.
I like it.
Results. Yeah, it's good stuff. I would say the Nanosoma and the C60 are the two most powerful things that we have.
Gosh, the nanosoma, that was up here, I think.
That's at the top. That's the vitamin C precursor that teaches the body how to make vitamin C. That's
Gotcha.
about $60 a month. The carbon 60 is about $150 a month.
Yeah. So a few dollars for sure. But I think if a people, I think one of the things that may have happened to many people is they took C60, but it wasn't one that really worked. And I mean, like, would a person expect to feel something from taking the C60?
No question.
Okay, so yeah, if you didn't feel better, if you didn't have positive benefits, then it probably didn't work. What you were taking, that is, you know what I mean?
Well, certain folks have, let's say, the farther away from homeostasis you are, probably the faster you're going to notice any of our supplements, right?
It's true.
But even someone who's very healthy can notice things. My first week on C60, which about 7 years ago, was very telling. I had a big heavy metal detox that I wasn't aware that I was even dealing with. Lost a few pounds and felt like $1 million after that detox period. And C60 as a sports performance product is unparalleled. I'm still racing motorcycles off road, and some of these races are 5, 6, 7, 8 hours long, and one of the hardest sports on the planet that some folks don't realize. I would be taking C60 or cannacarbon the whole time, and just amazing, kind of like Popeye with his spinach in terms of,
Yeah.
wow, I bounced back. I have no business feeling this good right now.
Mm.
So very powerful lactic acid buffer, and ultimately, let's remember, why do we eat? We eat to get electrons, not just calories, right? So
Yeah.
you can bypass all of that process and get electrons in through these supplements. You can cut down on your food intake and actually have a really powerful experience athletically without burdening the body with all kinds of food and other supplements.
No, it makes sense. It's like our common friend Ken Rolla. That's where he always eats, like, he's always growing super ormus charged,
Mm-hmm.
microgreens, and eating those. And
Right.
he's
Well, we
like,
have
what?
that with the bioage algae. We don't have to go. We don't have to grow that stuff and go through all that trouble.
Yeah.
We have that algae product that bypasses all of that.
Oh, that's right. It was down here, right? BioAge.
Bioage, right
Yeah, there
there.
we go. I like that. Yeah, I would definitely take that supplement also because, you know, I have done the super ormus, microgreens and hydroponics, and I enjoy it. But there's many things that we enjoy that also, when we're honest to ourselves, are a pain in the ass. And and no, I love hydroponics. It's fun, but definitely because it offers what you're getting from all that effort. The BioAge to me sounds extremely interesting because if you do eat supercharged, almost supercharged microgreens and hydroponic uh, larger greens and veggies and such, that you definitely feel that you're going to know that you're eating them. But yeah, that makes BioAge sound extremely interesting to me for sure. Well, one thing about P and definitely I want to get into like your leg breaking experience, and we have a lot of stuff we can cover, but PMF. So the PEMF, and I do have some cymatic pictures that I have that I pulled up, and the way you describe PEMF working, I think that would help people kind of get it more, because at least people listen to us. They're going to understand exactly what you mean as you describe what it's actually doing.
Okay, you're going to show some cymatics here.
Yeah, and this is not the cymatic, but just I thought it was a cool image anyway. So, but this guy, don't know who he was, but it's an old picture, pretty darn cool looking. He had some cool equipment there.
That's
But
Lukovsky, I believe.
yeah, I just didn't know who he was, but that's quite amazing. I love his old gear there. This is like some classic picture. Those I think are ice crystals, but here we go into like cymatics and nature, as we can see in this one. I thought it was very cool. And sorry, it's not the best image. It's a little small, but cymatic pattern of 33 hertz. And then of course, pine cone. Look at that, amazing! How you see where the cymatics, these patterns are everywhere. And let me see
Yeah.
what's.
This
Oh,
is a
here we.
powerful video.
Yeah, in this video here, I'm not sure if people will hear the sound or not. But this is actually different. As you can see, the frequencies here that he's broadcasting, and you can see the sand grains reacting, or it might be salt. I forget.
Right. So what I'd like to describe for people is watch the transition when everything becomes chaotic, right?
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
distance,
there you go.
right? But when everything is symmetrical and beautiful, that is lack of dis-ease, right? That's the way that we're meant to function. So everything that's coming out of the matrix, whether it's these EMFs, whether it's pollution from the chemtrails or what have you, are designed to create the chaos in that sacred geometry. Everything that we're doing with Energy MedFit and all energy medicine practitioners, regardless of what modality they're using, that's what we're attempting to do, is recreate that magnificent symmetry. You know, if you look closely, you see the back of the tortoise shell, you see the nautilus, you see the beet or the carrot. If you look at the cell structure,
The turtle shell.
right,
I mean,
this could be a liver cell, right? So if we stop it when it's discordant, that's disease, like right there, right?
like right there. That's
So
yeah.
we reestablish that pattern, as we saw with the pine cone so brilliantly. That pine cone was literally created by a frequency, right? In the
Yeah.
beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, right? Um, I think that's a lot of profound statements around those concepts, right?
Oh yeah.
It spoke us into existence, right? Everything is frequency. Think about the harmony we have with other people, or the disharmony we have with other folks, right?
Yeah.
Think of music. Some music makes us cry and makes us happy. Other music really pisses us off, and we want to, shoot the speaker. Some of these things. So it's all about harmony and discordance versus accordance or harmony. And we're able to recreate these with the devices. That's all we're doing. This is all that the Schumann wave does, right? The Schumann
Yeah.
wave resonates with the heart and the brain. And we can see a lot of folks in our society who don't have any cohesion or coherence between the heart and the brain end up acting out in criminal ways, right?
Oh yeah.
Because they're not being given those basic frequencies that they need, like love, compassion, security, right? Then we get into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can't be a creator at the top of the pyramid until you have all of the base needs taken care of, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. And we do have frequencies that are being put out that I think are making people well, discordant, basically. I mean, somebody, oh, what's his name? Robert Phoenix. He's an astrologer and just in general wise guy, you know. Yeah, and he was talking about, and I totally forget what he referenced, but a bunch of research that had been done on, and the stuff had been tested on, creating rage with sound. Actually, I mean, more than just that was done, but this was part of it, where, you know, can you actually broadcast the frequency which people cannot hear, but yet when it hits their brain, basically, it creates rage. And he was thinking, and he was making reference to, think about a lot of modern music,
Mm.
like the latest whatever gangster this or that, or hip hop, like not so much the older stuff, but especially now, like if you hear a car go by, like boom, 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 doesn't it kind of make you angry? And he was like, what if they're putting those frequencies? 'Cause look at how much violence is happening in the world right now,
Mm.
and especially in specific places and such like that. And what music are they listening to? You know what I mean? And can it be that people are listening to music that is designed frequency wise with that deep bass to create rage, mindless rage?
Well, folks can do a deep dive on it if they like, but they can look up the history of rap and hip hop, and all that type of music was actually created by a certain group to create discord in the black community and create more murder and drug abuse and inappropriate sexual activity and what have you. And look at the results. In the 1970s, 75% of black families were you know, two-person homes. The mother and the father were there with the children. So obviously, it's not something genetic. It's something that has been imposed upon them, right?
Yeah.
Um, Look at heavy metal and speed rap and some of the evil stuff that's been perpetrated on the white community. Definitely detrimental. And those of us who have any taste, when you hear that stuff, you'd say, turn that crap off. I don't want to listen to that.
Yeah.
And so I agree with Robert, that this is the case, and it's basically we're in an eternal war from every angle. So the whole reason I started this was to create a buffer and some type of safe sanctuary against this onslaught.
Yeah. Because I mean, we're going to live in what we create. We're going to live in what we're working on. So in a sense, there is as that saying, at peace in the midst of hell, basically, and you can be, you know, um, as I walk through the shadow of death, I fear no evil because I know who walks with me. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it can be your community that you create, you know. I mean, so yeah, so it's wonderful I think the only way to not succumb to the negative energies of this time, which are multidimensional, you know what I mean, uh, is you gotta just do what we're doing, basically. Just start doing good stuff and just do it to such an extent that you know, I think you have to almost you have to be in imbalance in a world of shit.
No. And I'm certainly not the Buddha about any of these topics, but I do know that um, when you focus on the basics and focus on your state of being predominantly, and whatever it takes to get to that homeostasis, that balance, that center of the bullseye, if you will, that balancing of the scales energetically, right?
Hmm.
That's a really marvelous place to be.
Yeah, it feels good. And also it creates, I think, hope. you know it creates hope, and it creates something to work on.
Hmm.
I mean, because when you feel good and you're determined to feel better, and you're helping other people get there, then your vibe's going to be pretty good. You're going to have a really powerful biosphere, you know and a lot of the bad stuff is going to just bounce off. And so the PEMF, that basically helps parts of the body, be it, well, any part of the body, return to its proper cymatic, basically.
Yeah, that's one aspect. There are other aspects. One is a 200% increase in blood flow and lymphatic drainage.
Mm.
The other is a 400% increase in stem cells in 10-15 minutes, depending on the device, right?
Wow.
Um, we're truly at the apex of regenerative medicine right now. Not that it can't get better. I do know that there are technologies that are being worked on, but this is what we have right now. And yeah, people need to remember that the magnetic field that has
Yeah.
been from us, for whatever reason, whether it's pollution, whether it's earth changes, has gotten steadily weaker to the point where we need this supplement. But it's not a supplement you put in your mouth. It's a supplement that you deliver directly from the body, whether it's depending on the attachment of the machine, right? So I want people to think about getting an injection of vitamin C. That's what the PEMF is doing, but it's bypassing all that digestive process that actually robs the ability to get 100% of that product, right? For example, when people take ascorbic acid, they only absorb about 20% of that product, typically made from GMO corn, typically can create leaky gut syndrome. And now
Mm.
80% of the product that's not digested, what happens? That creates a methyl group in the body that now the kidneys and the liver have to deal with. It's really an inefficient way to get antioxidants into the body. So with PEMF, we're essentially getting an IV, if you will, without having the needle in the arm to deliver these antioxidants to the body very, very quickly. I mean, when you see the miracles from this machine, it's astounding.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so, yes, people can go to Golden, Colorado there and stop by and get PEMF. They can get
We can sell them a device, we can rent them a device, so they don't have to make the trip necessarily. And I
Yeah.
should add that the NulVision scan can be done over the phone, like you and I did.
Yeah.
Uh, the AO scan can be purchased for home use. So we're basically trying to create a bronze, silver, and gold package of all of these things for everyone. because I know that, because I've been there. Not all of us have 30 grand for a clinical quality PEMF machine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do have the money, I would highly recommend it.
Well, when you are feeling better, when you have the energy, when you can feel that the I don't have words to describe it, but when you're working better, basically, then you're gonna have a lot more energy to make a lot more money. And that's the thing that I know I work on myself, and I want to help other people do that also, like you're doing, is where you realize that yeah, if you just turn up a person's voltage, then they're not gonna be worried about the money anymore. They'll just straight up manifest it. They'll be like, oh, 20 grand here, pew, here you go. Because I do tuning fork work, and that's like you mentioned, that's like an acoustic guitar compared to like an electric guitar and a huge Marshall stack, like the equipment that you've got. you know
PEMF, the electric guitar, and the tuning forks for the acoustic guitar.
yeah, very, very acoustic, and it's remarkable because that's the thing is, just even just that, being able to help people just with that, just somebody has knee pain or they have emotional issues, whatever it is, and you say, hey, well, let me we're gonna just check you out here, and you can feel some blockages there, and you can work on them and help clear them out a little bit. I mean, even that is like the most remarkable thing, because once there's something you can do, it just drives you to do it, you know?
Yeah, reminds me of a great quote from Stevie Wonder from one of his songs. When you're jamming in the positive, your destination is the brightest star.
Yes.
From Master Blaster. Great line. I should also add a little bit of personal story. I'm going on 27 broken bones and 17 surgeries at this point in my professional athletic career, and I have no pain. I don't.
Yeah, you mentioned how recently you had. Well, that's remarkable. I mean, that's amazing. I've never broken one. I feel kind of like, like an amateur. But so you recently had a broken leg,
Here's Rudy.
and
Kitty Rudy wants to say hi.
oh, hey, Caddy. Oh,
Say hi, Rudy.
oh, there you go.
He's on the nanosoma and the PEMF machine. Loves it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if one of my little critters gets close enough, I'll grab him or her. Um, so
I can hear you. I'm going to grab a jacket. It's getting chilly out here.
Okay, yeah. So while Glenn is getting a jacket, I'll mention that so it's Glenn Streeter, and the website to check out is um, energymedfit.com. That's energymedfit.com. From there, it links to everything. Um, and of course, this is radiantcreators.com. You can go there, you'll find this podcast, and we always put pretty elaborate show notes. So wherever you're watching this, listening to this, there'll be show notes. And with those show notes, we'll link to Glenn's site, and anything that we happen to talk about will be linked to there also. But pretty much just a link to Glenn's site's all you need. So um, you've got a phenomenal amount of broken bones and surgeries, more than average, and you're still walking around. Most people just get like one knee replacement and they're limping the rest of their life. But recently, you just had a broken leg, and you had really kind of a situation and a story that really brings home why we need our own sort of basically med bed. And also, I'll mention med bed, yes, but also individuals out there, if you so desire, if it moves you, learn some EMT skills. You don't have to be an EMT. You don't have to worry about running in an ambulance, but there's so many tactical training schools and so many places, and really for a couple $1,000, you can hands on to the training for EMT. A lot of community colleges and companies that do that stuff, and it's all hands on. It's a lot of fun. You'll meet the best people in your community. Oftentimes, the cops and the fire department are actually part of the training. They're actually in there helping out because they just want to. So You know, we got to have our med beds, but definitely, it does not hurt to know how to use a tourniquet. Heavens forbid, if you're hanging out with Glenn Streeter, who tends to injure himself a lot, you might need a tourniquet. But so you had quite the experience.
Yeah, it's been a long journey with sickness and injuries. Definitely been the impetus for this career, and just stopping at nothing until I found a better mousetrap. I haven't taken an ibuprofen in 15 years, by the way, um, thanks to edible THC and edible CBD.
Mm.
So, highly encourage people to do that on a regular basis to keep the inflammation down.
Wow. And the THC, is that just like microdosing THC, or is that like a
Rick Simpson,
wallop?
folks want to do a deep dive on that. It's RSO. It's called Rick Simpson oil. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Rick Simpson was able to cure his entire neighborhood and then his entire town and county of pretty much everything that they had wrong with them. Got exiled to Belgium. I don't know if he's back in Canada yet, but kind of perfected the process of distilling the THC molecule down into a paste that you eat. Far, far better
Yeah.
than smoking it if you're looking for medicinal value.
Yeah. We
Changed my
actually,
life about 20 years ago.
on the show, we've had hemppaste.com, if you're familiar with them.
Mhm.
And I know they were inspired by him, and they talked about him, and they're out of Hawaii, and they pretty much like can the whole plant. And it's basically based on Rick Simpson's design.
Right.
Yeah.
So remember, that's high octane, right? That's for cancer, breakthrough pain, getting people off of psych meds, pain meds, what have you. As a daily driver, folks probably want to take a look at CBD. Much more mellow, much less of a stony type of response. And I'm not poo-pooing THC at all, but some folks would get in big trouble. They couldn't do it, like pilots and police officers.
Oh yeah, yeah. I myself actually, I like the CBD, and I like the hemp paste, the whole plant. But I myself find like being stoned like uh, completely annoying. Or some people like it. I find it to be just a pain in the ass, and I'm waiting for it to be over. So yeah, hemp paste is a wonderful thing, and uh, if you take the amount that works for you, you're good to go. But yeah, if you like take a spoonful, yeah, you're gonna be Cheech and Chonging for quite a while. you know? Oh yeah. And so you broke your leg, you went to the hospital, and it kind of brought home a lot of the things that we're talking about, why you don't want to go there.
Right. Um, well, real quick regarding the
Yeah.
Simpsons, I'm really blessed here in Boulder. Obviously, I've had access to pretty much every psychedelic and every new invention that's come along, and a lot of my teachers were some of the real pioneers in Simpson oil um, usage, and so I did have 4 or 5 situations where I did overdose on it, and it's horrible. I kind of feel like
Yeah.
Charles in the movie Ray when he's detoxing from the heroin. It's you want to die kind of scenario. So if that happens to folks, if they take a little bit of CBD, they can actually attenuate that misery back to a normal place, so you're not freaking out.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's important to know. Um, Regarding my situation, I told everyone on the air for once COVID started, do not go to the hospital for whatever reason because you're going to get PCR tested. They're going to want to get jabbed, and you're just going to end up in that scenario like I talked about with my neighbor with the cat infection, right? The cat bite. You just next thing you know, you're caught up in their evil whirlwind, right? So, of course, I went and broke my leg skiing pretty severely. I shattered my tibia and fibula in multiple pieces and had my ski tip hit my face as it wrapped around the tree. Um,
Mm.
got to the hospital. I have to say, everyone was very professional the way that was handled, and I did understand what the attraction to fentanyl was because I hadn't had it before. Instant pain relief makes you want to laugh in the midst of misery. Um, and their professionalism was first class. Great surgeon. So that's the first surgery. But then the second surgery, they wanted me to do a PCR test and they wanted me to be vaccinated. So you can see how quickly you can get into a really miserable situation, because I would have lost the leg had I not had the second surgery. Um, so I sprayed the nanoxide in my nose pretty heavily, and well, eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Took the PCR test, and they said that they found nothing. And I said, "You mean no COVID?" And they said, "No, nothing. We didn't find any pathogens." So there is a way to beat the PCR test with silver and some other certain things that are safe for the sinuses.
Yeah, I like it.
And then I was able to litigate myself out of the jab, having the help of some legal people. And then again, an excellent surgeon. And, and within a week, I was off the pain meds thanks to everything that we've talked about today. And I'm racing motorcycles again, um, with no pain. I'm feeling great. So very grateful for these technologies. I'd certainly be in a wheelchair if it wasn't for these things.
Mm. Yeah, and that's the thing. I like helping people know about this stuff because having had some experience with it, I know these things work, and when you've had real results like that, um, yeah, to anybody, I don't think we really have many skeptics listening, but if there are any, you can always test it. You can test it, prove it to yourself. You know, you can be your own, you can be your guinea pig. You can try it and see what happens. Because I always feel for so many people who are especially athletic, like top performers who are plagued with pain from this or that, and then the only thing that the traditional medical establishment has for them is injections, deal with it, suffer, or replace that body part. And you know, I know in a sense with enough trauma, there's always the point where replacing a body part, maybe that makes sense. And you got a titanium knee. Well, there you go. Okay, that can happen. But um, uh, I think most people would rather not go that route. And I think that they just feel helpless when they're going to the traditional system, and their options are all just dismal. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah,
Well, worse than that, they've been paying into it for however long. In my father's case, it was decades,
yeah,
and then you feel compelled to use that system because you've been paying for it. It's a bitter pill to swallow for a lot of folks to pay me $250 an hour to do this stuff. But if you show up in your $150,000 SUV and you tell me that you don't have the money to fix your knee, then I'm going to tell you don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, right?
no, it makes sense. And right now,
Case
if a per
right?
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like right now, if a person is buying their own health insurance, like just an individual who with no pre-existing conditions, uh, you're looking at like 650 to $800 a month.
You mean for like an HSA?
I'm not sure what they call it.
Well,
Um,
you can do a good coverage is to have emergency coverage.
yeah,
People like me can't help you with, and then have an HSA, which allows you to choose who you pay out of that HSA. I think that's the system that makes the most sense for people. Have
well,
those emergencies covered, and then have the elective things covered as well.
that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that. If it was cheaper, I definitely would be into it. Because when you look at what some of this stuff costs and you think about just what health insurance costs, you're like, well, really, it starts to, you know, this stuff isn't that expensive compared to what you pay a year in health insurance. Yeah, exactly. You know, so, and then we covered a lot of ground, and it's great getting what you're doing out there, getting people, familiar with what you offer, with what's going on. And the Shemitah is something we were going to talk about, because I think that to me, like the sort of Renaissance operator, whatever you want to call it, this emergent communities that are springing up out of natural human instinct, who have their Glenn Streeter med beds, and they, they can drop people at 500 yards with their AR, and they can do stitches on other people and themselves, and their EMTs, and their, so you have this like badass crew that are kind of building communities, and not like hippie nirvana communities where you all share blenders, but like, proper property boundaries and such, we're all kind of getting together, and we're starting to build these badass communities. Um, One of the things we also have to know is it doesn't hurt to live by the stars. It doesn't hurt to at least know what's going on up there. And the Shemitah is one big deal. And whether a person believes in the stars or not, there are people, we'll call them like reptilian shapeshifters, right? Who do absolutely believe in those stars, and are going to do something unique the end of this month.
Right. Well, I'm certainly not the expert on it, but along with my medical research, I've been studying world events and things since 1995 pretty heavily, um, and looking at these patterns. And one of the things that's come up recently in the truther movement, you could say, um, some folks have done some really deep dives on this, is that every time there is a financial reset or a financial collapse or calamity, it is during this week of October 21st through the 29th. Um, and this is a Shemitah year, which is a jubilee where they re- supposedly relieve all the debt. So all the same alignments that happened in 1929, 1987, and 2008 are happening this October 21st through the 29th. So I would just encourage folks to don't leave any money in the bank that you can't lose. Just have enough in there to survive. Get some gold, silver, and cryptos, and get creative. Think about what people are going to want in a grid down scenario. So, for example, I don't smoke cigarettes, and I don't drink coffee. Not that I'm an angel, but I bought a bunch of that stuff to barter with, right? And it's
Hmm.
great. You're never going to use it up, right? It's going to be there as a barterable item. Um, folks who don't drink alcohol, they should stock up on alcohol, and it's a bottle of wine could be worth $500 at a certain point in time, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's time to start thinking about practical things. But the most practical is neighborliness. Surrounding ourselves with folks who are a team, who can take care of each other, who can be trusted, because not everyone is going to have the ability, the time, the money, the effort, whatever, to have everything they need. This whole prepper concept of being an island, I certainly respect it ideologically, but it's not practical. It's not pragmatic. I'm a pretty good mechanic, but I'm not going to rebuild my truck. I need a professional mechanic to work on that truck, right? Um, I don't expect to have all the food that I need, but I'm going to use my medical skills to barter for food, right? So as
Yeah.
long as you're bringing something to the table, feel good about it, and share that with your local group, so that you're all um, a team to take care of each other. Because I do believe things are going to get really, really challenging as we go through the birth canal here towards 5D. And I do believe we're in a renaissance right now. I feel like my colleagues and I are a part of it, as are you. Um, as far as bringing these technologies forward, we just have to wait for the right time period, and when it's safe. And once things become stabilized, but just be aware of the next few weeks. And I think everyone can feel it.
And that's definitely, I think people do feel it. And many people, I hope it's not the majority, but it very well may be, um, they don't feel anything. You know what I mean? Like you look at how, you look
Ever.
at what they, like you look at what they eat, you look at their state of mind, and the only reason that they're able to function ultimately is that they don't feel the pain that they're in. Like they literally, it's kind of like a pain brain barrier, and they're not feeling, they never feel good, but they're not feeling as bad as they should. So we have that. I think, I sometimes affectionately will call them like orcs, which is terrible, I know. But if you actually watch Lord of the Rings, like 1, 2, and 3, and you look how orcs were created, they were created by dark magician from the earth. They're golems, basically. If one studies the Jewish folklore, the golem, what it was for, and um, it's the whole idea of it is a, and of course what Tolkien was working at was something much more dark than that. um, that there's people that are created, and it's kind of a toss-up. I wonder, are they created by God or by man, you might say. You know what I mean? And you wonder, you're like, do you have a soul or not? You don't act like it. You know what I mean? Anyway, so we have that aspect, right? Which is kind of out there, I know.
NPCs, right?
What's that?
The NPCs, is that what you're referring to?
The NPCs, yeah, you've got the NPCs, and quite often they're so.
They used to be few and far between. Now it seems like the majority.
It's the majority, yeah. Well, if one was to, and I say this like lovingly towards humanity, but if you wanna, if an individual goes to like Google search and just go like beaches 1930s, like beaches 1940s, beaches in the 70s, you're gonna be like, what the hell happened to humanity? You're gonna be like, it's about 1990, stuff started going downhill real fast, and something's not right, and people are walking around, and I'm wondering what's keeping them alive. So you've got that issue there. But like you're saying, there are a lot of people, though, who are tuning in, and I couldn't tell you the majority. It's not the majority, but you've got a good percentage of the population. It's a minority of the population, but enough that are tuning in to what we're saying, and that's why they're led to hear this, and why we've been led to hear other things. Is that cymatic community, energetically is getting together, and I think that even the fact that prepper didn't exist, and prepper is just kind of a label. I think there's something that's almost like the superficial, like Reader's Digest version of it. There's something much deeper that's going on, where people are sort of like we've joked about, like many times in World War II, the tanks would come too quickly, and so everybody would just kind of squat down in their foxholes and let the tanks go by. Then once the tanks went by a good ways, they'd hop up and shoot them in the ass with their rockets, And I think there's a lot of us that are like just working on that super high vibe, super high vibe community, like as close to a med bed as we can get, being like physically strong, spiritually strong, intellectually strong. And we're just, we're not going to take this whole, let's call it the Great Reset, on head on. We're going to kind of, that's a tough one, where there's this desire people have to fight. But I'm just wondering what you think. It seems like to me, isn't that I don't put my best foot forward, like you mentioned, isn't that I don't do my best to keep America strong and great and everything. But I also feel like the real fight isn't quite here yet. And I gotta be available for that.
Right. Well, the Great Reset can be our reset or their reset, but
Yes.
I think we can all agree that we are overpopulated. I know there's a bunch of people in the freedom movement who argue against that, and everyone can fit into Texas, the size of Texas. But you know what? That's all malarkey. What about quality of life? Every beautiful place that I've lived has been ruined by too many people moving there. And it would be one thing if they were people who shared the ethos that existed there, but they don't. They bring their lefty crap and their wokeism with them. They bring their deep pockets and their materialism, which just having money doesn't make you an asshole, but these people are. And they've bought into all of that. And to them, their stuff is more important than relationships or experiences. And I don't want those people in my life. So I think since no one had to take the jab at gunpoint, I think there's a certain elegance to people volunteering, and not the children and not the people who didn't know any better. I feel for them. But if you're an 18 plus adult and you went and did that, I'm sorry, that's your problem. So I think that we're going to see a huge reduction in the population, and I think that it's because, as we know, a fiat money system needs hypergrowth in order to continue to grow like a cancer. What happened was the game got too big because it is a zero sum game at a certain point, right? The planet is only so big.
Yeah.
So, too many products, too many SKUs, too many people, too many flights, too many uh, ships, tankers, and too many trucks delivering things, right? The whole game just got completely out of control. So they had to stop and bring the game back, like shrinking a Monopoly game. And I believe that those are positive aspects of the reset. If we can take control of the reset in terms of finance, medicine, and individual freedom, I think we have a chance.
Yeah, and I've heard it referred to by a few people as the great like bifurcation, where it's the great awakening and the great reset, and humanity's going to split,
Mm,
and it's kind of like basically 3D versus 5D, you know, and that's multidimensionally in a sense there isn't one Earth, so I think that we're at a point where such variance can't exist in the same dimension. That's kind of how I see it. So things are going to change. So yeah, so this is kind of like this is sort of stuff for all of us to think about, and it can be overwhelming, but you just do what you can do in the course of a day. Have a plan. I feel the discouragement that many people feel. I'm not like we're not where exactly we want to be yet, but we're further along than most, and we're moving in the right direction. We're gonna have so everything we've been talking about helps people um, chart their course. Whatever that means for them,
mhm.
and so I mean this has definitely been great, and I hope that you know I hope that we kind of created a good cymatic that inspires people to keep after it, because I think everybody needs a little bit of inspiration once in a while these days.
For sure. For sure. And I would encourage everyone, I don't do this enough either, but it's recently been shared with me. Maybe don't get lost in it, but maybe take a half an hour a day, watch a movie or a commercial from back in the day when you were happy, listen to music from that time period, maybe reach out to friends from high school or college and just try to reach back into time, to a time that you remember when you were happier, because it is really challenging to be grounded and content and feeling positive right now.
Yeah,
So just take that time to not be creative necessarily and not be pushing forward and making things happen, but just to remember a more pleasant time. And I think that we might be able to get back to that. Um,
I think so. Yeah, and it also helps us gauge the variance between then and now.
mhm.
It really does. It makes you realize something changed. Yeah.
Pretty dramatically.
Pretty darn dramatically. It really did. Wow. Well, I've had you for almost 2 hours. It's been great. And is there any uh, last thoughts? Anything you wanted to make sure that we covered?
Um, just chip away at it. Don't get overwhelmed. I encourage everyone to raid the first aid section when they go to the supermarket, right?
Yes.
To buy all of it, but some gauze, some iodine. I did bring some Celox here that we forgot to mention. Let me mention this. It's really important for patriots. Celox will stop a bullet wound or any wound up to 3 inches across, right? So carry this
Mm.
everywhere you go. Comes in different forms, from a powder to a gauze wrap and what have you. And team up with your neighbors. Find out which ones are trustworthy and which ones are not. And you know, um, bullets, beans, and bombs, right? Or what is it? Bandages.
Bullets, Budweiser, and butter. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
Budweiser is the only beer left. We're in big trouble.
yeah, I know. Seriously. Well, yeah. And also, I always think that, you know, it does not hurt to define what you want, what that ideal life is. And once you're living that, then you're as prepped as you need to be. And so, definitely don't be afraid to visualize that as you go into sleep. You know what I mean? I think there's an incredible power in manifestation, an incredible power in knowing what you want and being poignant about it. We oftentimes will note that our slightest whim that we happen to think about sometimes ends up showing up that day. Well, the big stuff does too. So have a vision. And even though sometimes it can look like a long road, just keep that vision and don't think about the discouragement that you might feel once in a while. Ignore it, and listen to some really retarded 80s music that you'd be embarrassed if your friends heard you listening to. you know, you know.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, I'm telling anybody, don't ask, don't tell. Yeah.
Worked
All
for
right. Well, Glenn Streeter of energymedfit.com. You can find everything about Glenn Streeter and all these products we talked about at energymedfit.com. There'll be all that stuff in the show notes. Just click on the link that says show notes. It'll all be there. And this has been great. And I think that we definitely connected to the tribe out there, our cymatic resonance. And we'll see you all in Colorado. All right. Take care.
Take care, Craig.